Welcome to Married AF. We are your hosts, Brooke and Randall Fowler. On this show, we discuss the topics that really matter.
Like big veiny cocks and our favorite TV shows.
So pull up a chair at our kitchen table and hang out.
While I bulldog my nuts. Oh, we got one.
All right, now we're...
And it's either Tom or Miles.
Very well could be, or my sister. Ooh, 3. All right, well, welcome to Married AF, everybody. This is a very special episode. That's why we're streaming it and recording it. So you're going to get to catch it either way. But finally, back with family. We finally have Rachel Miller back. It feels like, what's it been, 3-4 years?
It feels that way. Let me tell you, the last 6 months feel like years of my life.
Yeah, so what's been going on? Let's catch everybody up. For one, tell everybody what you do, Rachel, for the new people maybe that haven't listened back and heard you yet.
So I'm a marriage and family therapist. I'm also currently a PhD student. And so the last 6 months of my life have been insanely busy. I had the last 2 semesters of PhD classwork. And so now I'm moving into dissertation. But it was an intense 6 months of classwork.
Oh, I bet. We used to, for, just recapping for new listeners, Rachel used to come on the show. We did it every month for, I don't know, for a while. And then she got really balls deep into finishing up this PhD stuff. And so understandably, I mean, I couldn't do that and anything else. So.
Yeah, it was crazy. I made a trip to Scotland in there to do a presentation, and I had a statistics class that kicked my ass. And so I sort of just shut down everything until that was over.
All right. Well, let's do our shot, babe, to powerful Rachel Miller being back.
Woohoo.
Aw, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All right. So, with that out of the way, so good to have you back.
What was that?
That was muscle vodka, peach schnapps, and cranberry juice.
Okay.
It's called a woohoo. Supposedly.
Oh, yeah. You looked that up in the car the other day.
Yes.
Woohoo.
That doesn't sound terrible for a change.
It's not.
It's not. It was just I don't know if, I think mine had settled a little bit. So it was like.
Oh.
Oh, you know what? I really did.
You guys have had some really bad ones.
Oh, God, yes. We've had some terrible ones that have made me almost throw up on the show, I think.
Well, here's first thing I want to do is kind of catch Rachel up. Has anything changed with us besides this? We do have a new sponsor that we can announce tonight, which I'm super stoked about. It's Effing Gear and Apparel. It's EFFING Gear, and they make some of the sickest hats, tank tops, sunglasses out there. Look them up on Instagram. They're fucking awesome. I can't believe that they want to work with us.
Effing Gear with a
EFFING.
GEAR.
Yeah, GEAR.com is the website.
Okay.
But
Look at you guys. Every time I turn around, you have a new sponsor.
yeah, we've mixed it up. We also have we can bring in. We had 2 today that started, and we just saw your cat. That's beautiful.
Sorry.
Love that. No, that is.
I love it.
I think it's awesome. Cats are so funny like that.
I mean, the better part would be to bring the puppies in, but, they wouldn't stay still long enough.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. But Vital Tattoo Care.
Oh.
It is a tattoo highlight for your skin. Actually makes your tattoos pop. You can also use it as the
even old tattoos.
Yes, but when you get tattooed, it can be used as your ointment as well for healing. So cool shit. And then we got our standard sponsors, BioBidet, so you can clean your butthole.
Yes.
That's standard here at Married AF. You can save 10% by using the promo code Married AF.
And muscle vodka.
Muscle vodka. And for the love of God, I really am starting to feel special. And underzips. Underzips are the best underpants on planet Earth with pockets. And they have the American flag on them. Underzips underwear that's sponsored. They were actually probably the first one that reached out that liked Uncle Randy. And they were like, oh, God, this just fits. And they're right. It's a perfect fit. And you're going to hate me as much as Brooke, because I will refer to myself in the third person when I'm Uncle Randy, and I confuse myself because I don't know who I am anymore. So.
And he says, "God damn, too much."
But it's a character. I got it.
Yes, it is.
Well, and that's our very first question. I wanted to answer the listener question and then get Rachel's thoughts on the psychology of how bad this is confusing me.
Okay.
It said, Randall, where do you see Uncle Randy going in the future? Well, nowhere. I mean, I don't anywhere besides what I'm doing now. Now, listen, I want to kind of get this out there, though, to people, because a lot of people have been asking. I wouldn't say that Uncle Randy is a character, right? He's very much me. I mean, it really is me.
It's just a very amplified version of you.
And people ask me about the language, and I get it. But the language has, for me, and this may not be right, so this is where I'm going to come to you, Rachel, very first.
Okay.
The language to me is important for who a big part of the demographic is for me, and that's for young men that aren't getting talked to about sex. It's kind of just to be on their level. That may not be right. I don't know, but it seems to strike a chord and fit. Plus, I don't have a very clean language, so it's not very far fetched from me.
Well, I was going to say, you know me as much as I know you, and dropping a good F-bomb is never a problem in my world. So unless you're worried about offending the audience, I'm not sure why you'd care.
No, I'm not. I just wanted people to know. People have asked me, but I saw did you see the thing she posted? Was it today, the Facebook post, or yesterday about the using the F-bomb and that guy that was getting...
I think that was yesterday. Yeah, Tom says it all the time, my husband, for the new listeners. He's like, Rachel's the therapist who says fuck.
It's true.
It's kind of true. I kind of warn people up front when they meet me, so you should know I curse. I don't think of anything about it. I curse in front of my kids. I did it when they were little. They're adults now. I still do it. Am I careful with people's kids in my therapy office? Yes. But if you're an adult in my therapy session, if I'm gonna call you on your bullshit and I'm gonna tell you to fucking knock it off.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work the same. It doesn't work the same to say, I think that's inappropriate. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
It has a different meaning, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. And that's why I warn people ahead of time. This is who I am. If it makes you uncomfortable, let me know. I'll attempt to adjust, but you should know it's not I tend to just run my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I like the point that that video made. I thought it was actually spot on. I would have shared it. I mean, I think it would fit for all three of us, but if somebody's like, your cussing is really upsetting me. You're like, really? That's what's bothering you?
Right.
Of all the other shit.
50,000 other things in the world that are worth getting upset about. Or for me, it's like an emphasis, right?
It's like a punctuation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm I don't know. I get that it's not everybody's thing. I totally understand that. That's absolutely fine. And if I know it's not your thing, I might try to be a little gentler, but I can't promise I'm not going to say fuck. I can't.
Yeah. Well, can you do us a favor? Can you find the Uncle Randy video about consent? It should be the one before last, I think.
I think I saw that one. It's a black and white one, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I know I commented on it, so I have to make sure.
And I did go.
Oh, yeah. Here it is.
I went and followed that Instagram account that you said to follow also.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, the Sex Positive Families, they're an amazing Instagram account. If you're looking for some really solid ways to talk to your kids about sex, from the time they're born to the time they're teenagers, how to address some of this stuff, the Sex Positive Families account is brilliant. I need
to look into it a little bit about how to tell Gunnar to stop saying penis so much.
Yeah.
Hey,
he literally just screamed it in the middle of the grocery store yesterday, baby. You weren't around, but we were in the aisle and I had to get freaking tampons, and then so he was looking at all the Depends and stuff, and he was like, "That's to cover your penis." Nice. And then I was like, "Okay, let's just not scream it." And then we started walking, and he literally just went penis. Just for no reason. I was like,
it's a fun word to say, Mom.
I know. I was like, oh, baby, can we just try?
Great. The whole grocery store staring at me now.
Hey, I've got to share this message we got from somebody in the chat for Rachel. It's fucking hilarious. Michelle Guild, who is an awesome podcaster. She's funny as shit. If you don't follow her yet, Rachel, you need to. Rachel's getting back. I mean, she also kind of dropped off Twitter. She was like the Oprah on Twitter till she had to back off for school. So Michelle, I'm sure she'll be back, or whenever she's done, she'll be back more active. But Michelle said, Rachel, I had a terrible therapist who, whenever I told her something, she'd just say, that's fucked up. And that's all she ever had to say, so I stopped seeing her. So basically what I'm saying is, Rachel, please help me.
Her therapist would just say, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the truth is we all have pretty fucked up lives. It just depends on which part we're sharing, right? Like, and the question is that's not even true. Here's the thing. Lots of therapists are taught to sort of be like a blank slate and like let you just sort of talk through your stuff and like come to your own conclusions about things and work through stuff. And it's not that I don't buy some of that, but for therapists to pretend like we don't have a stance and that we don't have bias in the room and we don't have opinions and that we can't offer some insight that maybe the person sitting across from us has never thought to have, like, this is just ignorant. Like, if you're there to help people, actually help them.
Right.
Like, but the world is full of really crappy therapists. Everybody knows it. I always feel terrible when I hear about it because I'm like, God, you give the rest of us a bad name. But there are some, and I always tell people, if the shoe doesn't fit, don't wear it. Take it back. Find a new pair. Like,
amen to that. What are you paying for if they just sit there and don't have any input? Like,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Do you have that queued up, Rachel?
I think I do.
Uncle Randy here with a listener question. Uncle Randy, I'm the father of a teenage boy, and I'm having a hard time having to talk with him. Perfect. Do you know where to start? Do you have any advice? Listen, you know I do, goddamn. You need to start with consent. You understand me? You need to run up and down the gamut of consent. He needs to know that motherfucker inside and out. And I don't care if you didn't have to know consent when you were younger, goddamn. They do now. You better become the expert. You got to talk about dick pics and tit pics and how them shits can ruin his life in one bad decision. They got to know the importance. All right? Listen, I don't want to be hard on you, but you got to stop being a goddamn pussy boy, too, and you got to man up. You got to be able to have these hard discussions because it's your job as the father. You got to be able to talk about dicks, balls, tits, and assholes. Listen, you need to tuck your sack back, sir, suck it the fuck up, and have this conversation over and over again. If you want him to be able to navigate these waters of sex nowadays, you better do it. Uncle Randy loves you, goddamn.
Baby, I think I figured it out. I figured out why the Uncle Randy videos bother me. It's because that voice you use is the angry voice you use when you yell at the boys.
It is 100%, 100%.
And so it like
yell at people.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I've never thought of that.
And he doesn't do that very often. It's like when he has to really drive a point home with the boys, like that's the voice he uses.
Well, that's why I never have to spank, Rachel. It's not necessary.
But also, isn't that what he's trying to do here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Yeah.
But I remember when I recorded this one, as soon as I was done, I was like, Rachel will like this one. I really think so. I remember talking with her. I think she's going to agree. I think so.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think the thing about consent, though, is people sort of think of it as only about sex, and it's not. You know, and we've touched on this before, where consent really is all the way back to like when kids are little and they don't want to give hugs and kisses goodbye, and we force them to do things they don't want to do. Like consent is a long, drawn out process. So if you haven't been really talking about consent with your kids until they're teenagers, it's a very different conversation to have. And there's stuff on the Sex Positive Families account about consent. I posted something on my Facebook on my Facebook business page, I think a day or two ago, about talking to specifically cisgendered teenage boys. So boys who were born in a male body and identify as male, talking to them about just sex and the first time they're having it. And I actually think I just saved something. I'll post it as soon as we're done. That specifically talks about consent, because it's not just like a one-time conversation. Like, we pretend like there's the birds and the bees talk, but that's not what we should be doing. We should be talking about it. To Randall, to your point, like there's so much more than this. It's about can you ask for pictures? The answer is no.
Don't ever do that.
Yep.
Right.
Not a good idea.
You know, how do you teach? And I would argue this isn't just teenage boys. This is teenage girls as well,
Sure.
and anyone even non-binary, about this conversation around I'll say manipulation and coercion around trying to get those kinds of things from people.
Sure.
Like, so it's so much more than just talking about, like, if she says no, she means no. It's bigger than that. But your point was spot on. Adults have to be able to talk about it, and they don't have the language.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I've realized, you know, with my oldest coming into these years now, like it's even more opened my eyes, especially in this last year, man. I mean, he's 14. He's got a beard, a steady girlfriend. Like, you know, it's flat out in my face. And, you know, from just discussions with him, because I talk about it a lot with him, you know, and it's important to me. But hearing from him, I realize how many other of his friends aren't getting that from their dads. They haven't been talked to. So what boys will do, and I remember, because I was this boy, you lie, you know, with your buddies. You make up shit, or you what's the word when you
exaggerate?
Yeah, you exaggerate your sexual conquests. You know what? You know, all kind of, and it's not okay. And I talked about that too in a video, because
that was really good too. You're right.
You know, I've learned that it's crazy, because I'm guilty of all these things. I'm trying to talk to kids that haven't been talked to about. I've been there, probably done them all or worse. But I know how uncomfortable it is, but I just want dads to realize that once you break the seal, it's not so bad. But you just need to break that motherfucker. You got to talk about buttholes and, you know, breasts, tits, buttholes, vaginas, dicks, all of, you know, you just got to get it out and start talking about it, and then it's not so bad. You know, it still sucks, but it's not so bad.
Right. And part of how you make that, it's once you have teenagers and you've never done that, then it's challenging. I don't deny that it is. And this is where, like, parents having good language for how to do this is helpful. And so, you know, utilizing some of the stuff that I know I've posted, Sex Positive Families posted, that can help give you the words. But also, if you're talking about things with proper language, to, you know, to Gunner's point, it's a penis. Call it a penis. And then when you have to talk about putting a condom on a penis later, it's not a big deal.
I have a real hard time telling him what I have, though, for some reason.
What do you think that's about?
I don't know. I don't want to say it to him.
Let's talk about that.
I
Rachel.
don't want to say it to him. Like, if I have to, because he says he'll like say something about me having a penis, and I'm like, I don't have one. Girls don't have one, baby. And like, I'll end up referring to it as like lady parts, because I'm like, I don't want to say vagina to my. I know he's 5, and like he's saying.
So give him vulva.
Okay.
Well, see, here's the thing, Rachel.
I'm
he's
such a chicken with that.
At 5 right now, he's a very smart. You know,
and he'll
everybody will
use
say their
it.
kid
He'll
is smart.
use it.
But he's at that age where he's very inquisitive. He wants to know why. Like, if you tell him that, he's also going to say, well, what is that? How does that work? Where does that come from?
Yeah.
So do you poop out of that? What do you do? How do you, he'll ask all that crazy shit.
There's always follow-up questions. Like, he doesn't even, Thunder, last night, I was telling Randall, I was like, when I was a kid, my parents told me that Thunder was like
Angels bowling.
Yes, it was God and angels bowling. And I was like, cool, sounds good. I say that to Gunner. He's like, who's God? Is he dead? Is he alive? Is he a ghost? What's he doing? How's he in the clouds? If they're in the clouds, Breezy went to heaven. How'd she get there? Did she fly?
That
and
was
I'm
our
like,
dog.
So like he's.
So this is where the resources can be helpful. I think I posted the other day a list of books for kids, books for varying ages, what's helpful, what's not. Because again, some of it is about language, and you as the parent have to be comfortable with the language. Like, you have to feel like you own it for yourself in order to be able to talk about it with your kids. But it's also perfectly okay to not be comfortable and still talk to your kids, and then talk about the fact that nobody talked to you about this, and lots of people don't talk about it, which is why it's still uncomfortable for me, and I don't want you to be uncomfortable with it. So we're going to talk about it, and mommy's going to practice.
I know. That's the thing, is that my mom was wide open talking about it, and I don't know why it's so hard like I want to talk to him like, not like he's a baby, you know, like
Right.
I try to talk to him and rationalize things and explain things in facts.
Yeah.
But certain words to me, I'm hesitant because he's going to go around saying things now. So,
Yeah, but he's already saying penis, so why
I
does it
know.
matter if he says vulva?
Yeah, in
don't
schools, I
know.
think, and we think, or you know, I would imagine all schools would prefer that they use the
the
correct,
proper scientific
I would
word.
hope so.
Yeah.
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 I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably not true, but I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. That's more of what I'm saying too. Like,
I don't
you know,
because
if
I'm
they're-
guessing at school that's where he was told to say that instead of God
Probably.
knows what else. Yeah.
But if you find if you find an age appropriate book, it'll sort of guide the conversation. And you've got a really smart kid who's inquisitive.
Mm-hmm.
Books are sometimes the best way to have those conversations because then it's sort of guided.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation can stay more focused.
Yeah, that's the perfect way probably is through a book because then it can be like, look, it's this book, Mommy explaining it to you through here.
is it possible, Rachel, that it's harder for a mother to have that talk with a son, and it would be that hard for me if I had a daughter? Like it's a little more because you've had one of both. So is
Yes,
it a
I've had
little? Yeah. So was it a little harder for you with the young man than the young lady, or?
I don't think it was.
I
hard
don't
for
think it
Rachel at all.
bothered you at all. You're just a
Well,
champion.
truthfully, it was more the personality of my kids.
Yeah.
My son is much more like, okay, cool, and here's all the information, and what do I do with it?
Yeah.
My daughter is like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah.
She's like, no,
Yeah.
shut up.
Yeah. Gunnar and Mason sound like they're alike then.
Yeah, that's how Griffin was. When we like really dove into it, like I don't know, it may have been like a year ago or 6. When I gave the full gamut.
Yeah, it was like within a year.
I've touched on it for many years now, like preparing him.
Yeah.
But, you know, this time I was like, you know, we got to cover it. You're going to sit here. We're going to talk about all of it, buddy. You're going to hear every damn bit of it. And
Just wait
good
till you
Lord.
get to have that talk with Gunnar. Gunner's going to be asking so many follow-up questions.
Well,
Griffin
Gunnar-
didn't say a word. Gunner's going to be like, hang on, I have notes, Dad.
No, I
Hold
think
on.
Gunnar looks so much like me. It'll be like I'm just talking to myself. Like
Oh,
it
yeah.
is what it'll be a little more like.
There you
But,
go.
but yeah, so he turned green. You know, it wasn't hard for me, but I could tell how hard it was for him. That I kind of loved it. You know, that he was because he sat through it. You know, and everyone lived and all that. So
Yes, everyone lives.
I gotta
Every
get.
time.
I've got to ask one question. This comes from Jody B. You remember Jody B?
Oh,
You
hi,
did a
Jody.
show with Jody, yeah.
Yeah.
Jody wants to know. He asked this question of us, and I never got to it, and so I want to drop it on your plate.
Okay.
How can he get his wife to give him more oral sex? He's serious. This is a real legit question. Can you answer that?
You can't. She has to want to.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a thing. It's not a thing you can demand. It's not, I mean, you can ask and she always gets to say no. The thing
course.
I would ask is, have you had a conversation about what it is about giving a blowjob she doesn't like? What is it that bothers her? I don't know. Maybe there's some manscaping that needs to be done. Maybe it's a taste thing. Maybe it's I'll only do it after you get out of the shower. Like,
Yeah.
if it's a hard no, it's a hard no. Lots of people have hard no's.
Yeah,
And
you know,
there's
that's so true.
Yeah.
That it could be hey, because Jody B's a hard-working guy. If he's home from work, I mean, he has a hard job. I wouldn't touch him either. I'd be like, you got to shower. The answer's no.
Scrub that area, sir.
God,
I
yes.
don't know.
I don't know, like,
it could be
different
something else.
people have different reasons why that's not something they do. Sometimes it's a personal hang up. Sometimes it's historically gone bad. Sometimes they've got a really bad gag reflex.
I was just going to say that.
They don't want to work on that. Like, I mean, but the thing about sex is, yeah, I know that you want it, and yeah, I get that. Like, I even get why. Then the flip side of that, I would ask, how often are you giving oral?
That's where I was going to go.
Yes.
I mean, it could be that kind of a thing. But here's the thing about sex, it needs to be negotiated. Like when we talked to the Priory Society all that time ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is all about negotiation
Mm-hmm.
and communication and finding out what's getting in the way of that being something they want to do. And if the answer is, it's my hard no, I can't do that, how do you respect that and take care of yourself in a different way that allows for it? Or how do you find other options to do something that's maybe similar, but not exactly that. Like I've taught people to use masturbation sleeves, pocket pussies. There's certain ones you can use
pussies.
that can
Shout
sort
out
of
to pocket pussies.
They can kind of, if they're made out of like a jelly, they have a top that can, they have an opening on both ends that you can sort of close off the top and create some suction. It can give a similar feel, but it's not exact. But that might work for a couple who's willing to figure out like, what's the closest I can get to this and we can both be okay.
I want to note how easily Rachel Miller just said pocket pussy and never even flinched. This is why she's the powerful Rachel Miller. Damn it. I love this lady, and so does Brooke, and this is why, damn it. She didn't even think about that it was pocket pussies.
Pocket pussy isn't even as bad as masturbation sleeve.
Masturbation sleeve? Yeah.
That sounds so technical.
I use both depending on the audience, and so, like, you know, it goes back to that piece about having language, and some people, I say masturbation sleeve, and they're like, huh?
Yeah, that's strange. That makes me feel like it's too doctory.
Yeah, it's way more like my sex educator speak than my, you know,
just a good old pocket pussy.
Girlfriend speak.
Pocket pussy might be trademarked, and like
it actually, I think it is.
Yeah,
it might be the brand name.
Yeah.
Fleshlight is a big one. I tried to get them to sponsor us early on. Never heard back. I really wanted them as a sponsor.
Yeah, they were Joe Rogan's first sponsor. I think they...
Yeah, he sold millions of pocket pussies.
Yeah.
Jody B is a huge fan of pocket pussies, by the way. Shout out to Jody B for the question and for loving pocket pussies. All right. Wanted to also we're going to touch on a couple of kind of current events, get your thoughts on them, Rachel, and then Brooke's got some listener questions that were submitted for you. And then a couple more, and you know the whole song and dance. All right, babe, you go ahead. Start with Ariel.
What?
On the paper that I gave you.
Oh, Randall, that is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down, Rachel.
Yes.
Oh, we're
on the
back
list.
to not following the list.
We're here.
Never change.
We're here. Randall's not changing for a thing.
Am I dyslexic? Is that what that means?
You're just unorganized as fuck.
Okay. Fair.
But that's my job, baby. That's what I do. So it's fine.
It only took me 3 times to send Rachel this link successfully by email.
I got it. It's all good.
We're all here, babe. It's good. So I assume about the casting of the live action Ariel. Is that what you want me to ask her?
Yes.
That they cast a black girl, which
is great.
Yeah. I think it's fantastic. And I think white people throwing a fit is because they're privileged and racist.
Yeah.
Period.
Did you catch the Uncle Randy video about this?
I did. I was like, oh, Randall, please don't let me down on this one.
Oh, God,
so
no.
Very,
yeah.
very
I would never. It's so absurd to me. Like,
it's so ridiculous.
It made me fighting mad. The people that I know that were upset about it, I was like, are you
stupid.
For real?
Right.
It
like,
really
get over
bothers
your
you?
damn selves.
And first
she's a beautiful young lady.
Oh, she's stunningly beautiful, incredibly talented. Shut up and let her do her job.
And her voice, I'm sure, she's going to kill it. And this is coming from somebody who, like,
Ariel's her favorite.
But, like, look, I have my Little Mermaid notebook.
I have the original VHS with the questionable cover.
With the penis on the thing. Yeah, this is a notebook that looks like it's the VHS cover. My sister got it for me when we were in Disney in February, and I was like, does it have the dick on it? And I don't think it doesn't. But like when I had the VHS with it, and it's probably still at my parents' house somewhere, like in their basement. But yeah, Little Mermaid is my absolute favorite. Ariel is my jam, and I think I can't wait for this movie. Like I'm so excited. Yeah,
and if that's the thing you're getting hung up on, like
Jesus Christ, yeah, just don't watch it.
Over yourself.
Like if it's gonna make you that upset, don't watch it. We don't want you to watch it.
See, I have a hard time with it, Rachel, and I know that you and Brooke both aren't going to agree with me, but one of the big parts that gets me angry about it is I don't believe people when they say that it bothers them. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's something else. Like you're,
yeah, they're racist.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not the Ariel girl. It's more than that. That's what bothers me. Like, just say what you want to say. Really, which is, probably I don't want a black person playing a white person, and say that. Have the balls to say that, which is terrible, wrong, all the other things that I would say immediately to them. But don't bullshit me with saying you're upset about Ariel being cast as by an African American girl. That's just dumb.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think it doesn't matter who they cast as her. There was going to be some even if it was a white girl, it would have been the wrong white girl. Like there would have been something to bitch about no matter what. Because even who they cast for Ursula, they cast Melissa McCarthy for Ursula, and there was like black people getting upset that they didn't cast a black person for Ursula, because it's like Ursula's like this is what people were saying like on social media. It was like Ursula's obviously black. Why'd they cast Melissa McCarthy? It's like, okay, she's an octopus. She's not any race.
Well, second of all these are fictional characters. First off,
well, exactly.
Right.
That's what I mean. Like they're cartoon. So
right, and we've taken a cartoon and we've made it a live action, and this has been the argument of like every single live action that they've done. There's been problems with the casting. I mean, I fully acknowledge that, like, when they cast Will Smith as the genie, I was like, well, we can't have Robin Williams, so I guess maybe that's the next best thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not?
But my heart says, but that's Robin Williams.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I haven't seen the new Aladdin.
I still haven't either.
The people I've heard that didn't like the fact that it was Will Smith, when they watched it, they said he was incredible.
That's what I heard. I heard he was amazing. So it's on my list of things to see. But I think that there's just this pretending, well, number one, pretending like it matters to the kids.
Right.
The kids don't care.
No, they don't.
And don't put it on the kids. I hate that scapegoat, man. That really pisses me off. When people use their kids in any way, because I see right through it immediately because I don't trust people, where I'm like, you're lying right now. Just say, you're the kid. You're bullshitting me. And so now I don't like you because you're making shit.
Well, now you're trying to make your kid as crazy as you are. Because you're like, this is wrong. Don't you think this is wrong? Look at this. This is wrong. It's like, no, why don't you let your kid form their own opinion and have their own thoughts about it?
Well, and the thing is that was your Ariel. Let this be theirs.
Right.
That's what I said.
Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't
can't we
make
all
any
have
sense.
an Ariel? We can all have an Ariel. Hey, everyone gets an Ariel. Let's do an Oprah. Everybody gets an Ariel.
Or like, why don't all these Ariels can be everybody's Ariel? Because that's really the point from Disney. But like, it's just so dumb that people choose shit like this to get upset about and bitch about.
There's really awful stuff happening in the world, and this is what y'all want to get fired up about.
Right.
Go home and sit down.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think people use these as their outlets for their outrage about all the other shit, their bigger hypocrisies or views. So they take it out on these little bullshit things that absolutely have no effect on anyone, because no one wants to come out and say, you know what, I just don't like black people. I don't. So I don't want my Ariel to be
They don't
black.
want to
Nobody
admit
wants
it
to
to
say that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these people don't even want to admit it to themselves. They're like, no, that's not it.
That's not it.
Yeah.
Because the minute I hear you say, I'm not racist, but.
Right.
Like, yes, you are.
Exactly.
And I don't mean like capital R racist, like running around with a KKK flag. I mean, you are a white person born in a white supremacist society. That's how we were set up. There's no way for you not to be biased.
Sure. And I think that those people that are on this edge, right? And that, just like you said it very well, that if you're not racist with a capital R, right? But you got some of these old ingrained sensibilities, those people can be saved, I think, and brought back to the right side if they'll just see, damn it, sometimes I show some racist tendencies or I say some racist shit sometimes, and maybe I should, watch that. That they're salvageable to me. Right. I just wish they would see it.
Well, for me, here's the thing, and people give me pushback around this, and I get it. I understand why it makes them uncomfortable when I say it. But when you grow up in a society that was established on white supremacy, which we were, like it or not, it's the truth. It is ingrained in every aspect of the way we live. Institutionally, societally, culturally, like that's what we've got ingrained in us. We couldn't not be racist as white people unless we were proactively trying to become anti-racist. It's just what we grew up. We drank the water. Like, so I'll go around and I'll say, look, I'm a white person. Clearly I'm racist because there's no way I could escape it. I've been proactively working to deprogram myself for years now, and I'll continue for the rest of my life. But everyone wants it to be like it's this personal attack if I say that you're racist. I'm like, I don't see it as a personal attack. I just see it as fact. I'm a white person in a white supremacist society. I'm working on it. But people can't own that. They get super uncomfortable with like, Rachel, I'm not a racist. Okay, I'm not saying you're a KKK Confederate flag carrying, like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's ingrained. We all grow up that way. Look at our media. This is why people are throwing a fit about a black Ariel.
Well, and we're very close to like the generation that like are just straight up racist with a capital R. Like our grandparents and some of our parents. Like it's like I remember my grandparents saying the N-word about like a news anchor one time, and that's like, my parents are pretty old, and then like some of my grandparents were very old.
Yeah, her grandparents are like my great grandparents' age. Her dad was straight up still banging late. Her dad's 96.
No, he's not. He's about to be
he's about
80.
to be 80. He's a killer.
But like, so my grandparents are pretty old, and that I wasn't standing for that shit when I was like a teenager. I remember like going off on them for saying that, but like that's. The society we live in is that we're all still, everybody that's an adult now is still pretty close to those generations that were just so like they had a hand in raising you in some way.
And our systems and our institutions are still set up that way. We still haven't broken some of that. So like if white people could get better about just sort of owning that it is what it is instead of it being like this personal attack all the time, we might be able to make a dent in it. But to Randall's point, people are going to throw this shit like, no, it's not that I care that she's black. It's just that's not who Ariel is.
Oh my
I don't know. Go back and read the original, and I'm pretty sure wasn't she like green?
Yeah.
Like,
and it was a totally different story. Like it was
right.
She's also a mermaid. Who's
also
raise your hand if you've ever seen
creature.
What color a real mermaid is.
Right, exactly.
No one.
Right.
And the one that is your Ariel is a drawing. Like it's a
Right.
cartoon.
Right.
Yeah, we've been doing this shit though since the beginning of time with pictures of Christ. Nobody knows what color he was. You know, the actual
Yes, we do. Look at Middle Eastern
Well, that's what I'm
people.
saying.
He's
The actual Jesus
Israeli.
Christ
Yeah.
that walked the earth, whether you believe he was the Messiah or just a rabbi, and we don't even need to get into debating that. But yeah, his skin color
He was
by
probably pretty
science would have
tan.
been pretty brown.
Right?
He would have been pretty brown, not this very light-skinned
Yeah.
man
Right.
with a well-groomed beard, by the way, in most pictures when there was not that kind of shit available. You know, so we do that. We tend to pick these pictures, and they have to fit that box all the time.
Yeah, because white people in power make everything that's influential about being white.
Yeah.
That's why Jesus had to be white.
And Santa.
And so they
And
come,
Santa, right? Oh, please.
and so they come back. Here's what I think causes a big of the problem. You know, because I've got plenty of friends that are, and I'm not saying I've got black friends, so I'm not racist. You got to let me finish, because I've got plenty of black friends. No, I've got plenty of black friends that have checked me over the years and been like, "Hey, brother," you know, that are my, you know, some of my best friends, and they've been like, "Dude, that's kind of fucked," you know, like that bothered me a scotch. And they don't. It's not like, and that's why I love them. They're not like, "We're done. I hate you." They're like, "But hey, man, that one was a little. That one stung." You know, and then I got to step back
That's
and
them
be
being
like,
a good
you know,
friend letting you know, too.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And I could either dig in right then and end our friendship by digging in, or I can be like, you know what, damn it, I'm sorry. I need to think about it. You know.
Yeah. But it also goes to the level and depth of the relationship that you have with them. Because they were willing to educate you in the moment. It's not really their job to, but
Sure.
they care enough about the relationship you're involved in to take the time and be like, okay, so I love you and I need you to fix your shit.
Yeah.
Like, get it together. Yeah, I have those friends too. I'm grateful to them all the time. Sometimes I feel bad because I'm like, I know I should be doing better than this by now. Like, you should not have to call me on that. Ooh, okay. step back, take a look at myself. Where does that stuff come from? How do I work through it? And, but yeah, when you take it all personally, like, no, just go do the work.
Yeah, and why has it gotten so difficult? Me and Brooke have had this talk a million times about today with people, and I try to make a big focus on these with my boys on things like this that stick in my head. How nobody wants to say that they're sorry anymore when they fuck up. What they want to do is give like a half-ass sorry and dance around their excuses, right? To kind of justify their shitty thing they did. This guy apologizes all the time. This one, me, I fuck up all the time. So I'm a pro at apologizing. But no one wants to anymore. And then that's what causes these splits. And then the next thing you know, you've isolated half of your friends. You've pushed them out on an island because you can't say, you know what, that was fucked. People will forgive you.
Sure it is. People can't sit with shame.
Yeah.
And when you have to acknowledge you did something wrong, people carry lots of guilt and shame and they don't know what to do with it.
But should they though? Because when I apologize, I feel better. Like, I think that's my job. If people would learn what an apology really is, it's your job to say you're sorry, right? And then correct the behavior. Then whether they forgive you is up to the other person. You can't make them forgive you, but your job is done if you're not doing it again, if you're learning from the mistake. So when I apologize and I mean it, like a real apology, I usually feel better. Like, oh, okay.
Right. I mean, you can. And I think, here's what I think about that. I think that when people have healthy boundaries, right? And when I say boundaries, I sort of mean your ability to protect yourself from the world and protect the world from you. So you have like an internal boundary, and then you have an external boundary that keeps stuff from coming in. But if those are in a healthy place and you feel relatively good about yourself most of the time, it's easier when people sort of tell you that you've hurt them for you to go, that wasn't my intention, but I hear how that landed. I apologize for that. I recognize my piece. I'll take my ownership and I'll do better, right? But what some people can't do is when you're not in a good place of having good boundaries in place and you don't have solid, what I would say, healthy self-esteem, being able to hear that you hurt someone, you run down a shame spiral and you stay there. You can't come back and you're like, oh my God, I'm a horrible person, or I'm this or I'm that, or I'm not worthy. And so how do you protect against that? Well, then you get defensive and you are like, well, that wasn't what I meant. I don't know why you took it that way. That wasn't what I was saying to you.
Oh, yeah.
Almost always that comes from a place of not feeling good about yourself and not having enough healthy self-esteem to be able to recognize that we all fuck up. That like, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you screwed up and you hurt somebody. So own it, do better next time. But a lot of people can't do that.
You want to start on the questions for Rachel, babe? I'm going to point you toward it. It's the ones with bullet points. We're skipping a whole nother section.
Numbers?
Yeah, bullet points.
The other ones are just like listed with spaces, and then all of a sudden there's some random bullet points in the middle of
these are the ones
page.
that were sent in for you, and I kind of smushed
these
them.
These are weird and random. Like,
yeah, they're from some of our Twitter friends, so it makes sense. I think it's people that know Rachel, so they weren't asking it like a stranger.
But this first one says, are you afraid to speak your own opinion? Are you kidding me? Have you listened to one episode with
they
us?
May not
Rachel?
know you. Yeah.
But does that depend on the context? Because if I'm in a therapy session, it's not, I wouldn't lay out all of my opinions.
True.
Because I don't have to live their life. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not, lots of people ask me, they're like, Rachel, what should I do? And I'm like, that's not my job. My job isn't to tell you what to do because I don't have to live with the consequences of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if you've thought about this, and I'm curious if you've thought about that, and what about this potential angle? On here, it's really different because clearly nobody on here are my actual clients. And this is like, but you're right, to some extent. If I have a stance, I warn people ahead of time. Like, look, this is what I believe. This is what I think. And so in this circumstance, for me, it would mean this, but you're not me and I'm not you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, but in general, no, most people who know me pretty much know where I stand on just about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have said exactly what you said, babe. Do you know Rachel?
I know. What? Have you listened to one episode of What's There? All right. So, what's the wisest thing you've ever heard someone say?
That's an interesting question, actually.
I feel like it's going to be from Esther Perel or something.
God. No, actually, it's probably, as much as I love her, anyone who knows me knows I do. It would have to probably be from Virginia Satir, and it is basically that the ways. In fact, I just pulled it up today. I wonder if I still have it, so I can pull up the exact quote, because it's a parenting quote. Actually, it's about the fact that it's us as parents are reacting. Like our greatest fears show up as our most irrational parenting.
Yes.
Right?
That's
and
spot
so
on.
Virginia Steer is also the person who said that, like, parents are doing the best they can with where they are and what they know, and it might not have been enough for you. Right? Like it may not have been what you needed, but that you as now you as an adult looking back, you can start to see your parents as people rather than just the role of the parent.
I was just thinking about that like yesterday, of like how much I love my parents, and like I was literally just thinking like, okay, like how, not what my parents did wrong, but like how I'm doing things differently in certain aspects than what my parents did. I mean, and I feel like I had wonderful parents that set a great example and they were loving, but there are certain things where, like, just making a point to spend one-on-one time and things at this age, like, I don't know, I just feel like there's little things that I'm trying to do differently, but
right. And so here's the quote. I actually found it.
Nice.
What lingers from the parent's individual past, unresolved or incomplete, often becomes part of his irrational parenting. A different way of saying that is, very often give our children the things we didn't get as children. Like, we give them the things that we wanted that we didn't get. And sometimes that works really well. Sometimes it does not, because it may have been what we needed, but it might not be what our child needs. And so we're trying to sort of we're giving this thing we didn't get, which, like I said, lots of times it's really great and it's super helpful, but it's really a matter of how do you connect with the child and figure out what they need if it's different than what you need or needed.
Instead of just trying to live vicariously through your kid. Like,
trying to make sure they never felt the way you felt. I mean, I can own that piece. I was a kid who grew up feeling like I didn't have much of a voice. That, like, nothing I said really had influence or impact. So my kids, which makes it really hard to parent sometimes, my kids always had a voice. Very rarely was something not up for debate. Like, my kids had power and my kids had a voice.
That's true.
And some people are like, I'm not so sure that was in your kid's best interests. Have my kids had to learn some lessons that not everybody cares about their voice? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's kind of like to what you're saying, right? Like, every kid is different, right? They're not 100% their parent. So you could have a personality where one of your kids, if you give them everything their whole life, then they'll never work for shit when they're an adult. And some, you can give them everything and then they still work hard, Yeah. Like, you kind of got to know your kid, right? Like, if they're one that needs to be patted on the ass all the time and told how great they are, or if they're one that you got to ride their ass a little bit because they can take it and they need it to move them forward.
Well, so my kids are very different this way. Like, McLaren, who just turned 18, graduated from high school, she's my very internally motivated kid. When she knows what she wants and she knows what she's working for, nobody has to say anything to her. She will do it all for herself, by herself. Mason, who's now 21, when he was little, he was the kid I had to force to learn to ride a two-wheeler. Like, I had to tell him he couldn't get off the bike until he pedaled.
Yeah, gotcha.
He screamed and cried at me, and I yelled back at him, and it's not my finest parenting moment. But he was that kid where nothing motivated him. And I mean nothing. We tried sticker charts and money and taking away all this stuff.
Oh my God. That was, We went through that with Gunnar recently.
I was going to bring that up at some point to you because I don't know. It may have been right.
We might have the same kid.
Yeah, it may have been right after you you took your break to focus on your PhD for a while there. But Gunnar went through a stage. Shout out to Kayla. She's on here. She runs the daycare. She was earlier.
She was a huge part.
She's a huge part in helping us. She's the daycare center director.
Yeah.
But Gunnar went through a stage for like 6 months where he was terrible. I mean, just terrible. Mm-hmm. He was awful. You know, he was just 4.
And we did get that like anger game, and I've played it with him a few times. Like even recently we did it that
Mad Dragon.
Mad Dragon. Yeah, I was like, it's the dragon one. It's like Uno.
I love Mad Dragon.
Yeah, and I mean it like
he worked himself out of it though, which was kind of my point. Was I had a feel, you know, I've watched it with Griffin. He's worked through several stages. Like I knew that they'll oftentimes come out of it on the other side, and thank God Gunnar like one day was just like, you know, Kayla. So we were on. I mean, it was killing us because he was not being a very good boy. And she was like, man, I don't know. Something happened. He's a lot better. You know, he's following directions again.
It was literally, it was from like October because that's, you know, he missed out on going trick-or-treating. Mm-hmm. I had to keep him home trick-or-treating, which broke my heart, I think, more than his. Like, because I was like, we're staying home and handing out candy. And then he ended up like having fun handing out candy. I was like, you're not supposed to be having fun. You're punished. And then, and then it went through like right up before we went to Disney in February. So it was like...
Yeah, it was like 5 months, so right at that.
So here's the interesting thing about some of that, right, is that sometimes when kids are growing and they're going through transitions, they just push boundaries. Mm-hmm. They're trying to figure out where they are and what they can do and what they can't do. And when you stay structured and you stay consistent, which is in a lot of ways why daycare and school can sometimes be really helpful, sometimes they just figure it out for themselves. You know, Mason was that kid who, it wasn't that he was ever a bad kid. He was actually, he was a really good kid all the way around, but he used to make me crazy because he didn't give a shit about his grades. He didn't give a flying fuck. I was like, your mother's working on a PhD and I got a kid who doesn't care about his grades. Please help me figure this out because I don't understand. But then he went to college. He went to community college for 2 years and now he's in a 4-year school and he's doing really well and he loves it and nobody has to tell him anything. He does it all by himself and for himself, and it all just fell in line for him. And he decided he was going to be motivated on his own. There's some of it you just have to like hold on and ride for, right?
That's
like,
what it was. Right. We tried everything and then
and he might, I mean, and I was just so grateful he came out because we tried everything, and then all of a sudden it was just like he just got better. And like the last little parent teacher conference we had with his pre-K teacher, it was like such a relief because it was just everything was so much better. She was so excited to tell me that like everything was so much better, and I was so relieved to be like,
so good.
Oh God, thank God. And then
but I will say, people around that though, here's the thing: Gunnar's a good kid. Period. He's going to do some things that you don't like, and he's going to be naughty, and he's going to push the boundaries, and there's going to be days you don't like your kid very much. True story. But he's a good kid. Give him credit for being a good, smart, wonderful, lovely child. And remember that at the end of the day, your relationship with him matters more than whether or not he follows every rule.
Oh, yes, totally.
Or whether or not he misbehaves in school, or whether or not he makes you look like an ass in the grocery store because he's yelling penis really loud, right?
Trust me, it was everything in me not to laugh so hard when he did that.
Right?
Oh my God.
But that's the thing. Like,
yeah,
you're not trying to raise a good kid. You have a good kid.
Yeah, no.
See, and a big part that I give credit to Kayla about, and she's just so good. She's a daycare director, so you know she's dealt with this for years. I mean, she deals with kids from when they're 6 weeks old until they go to kindergarten. All
ranges of types of kids.
And she was the only consistent. She's like, relax, it's going to be fine. And she would even tell the teachers when they would have to reach out to us, she'd be like, you know what, that's ridiculous. Stop telling them every little thing that he's doing here at school. Because Kayla's a parent, she's like, I don't want to know that shit from my kid when I've been at work all day. Like, unless it's a real big deal, you know, stop. And she was a real like beacon of
yeah.
You know, a steadfast rock. At least for me, I know that kept me sane, and I'm sure you too, babe. But I learned.
Educators are great.
I learned
Yeah.
with Gunner though how different he is from my other son. Gunner is not a kid that will ever respond to like punishment of he's never
Nope,
you
Mason
couldn't
didn't
spank him,
either.
you couldn't yell at him, like that's not
Nope.
it's not gonna make a dent. Now
Oh,
Griffin's
God,
different.
no.
You could yell at him, he's gonna go pout and it's gonna sink in. Gunner's gonna be like, you just look stupid when you yell.
And all that does is make him sad and make us sad.
Or make him mad.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he doesn't respond to it.
And then and really it's like the reward thing and the taking stuff away. That didn't really work.
He had nothing, Rachel.
It was
we
truly,
had emptied his bedroom. We tried all that. We took everything away. At one point he had nothing left, and none of it worked.
and all it did, like, it broke our hearts, like, more than his, probably.
You didn't care.
Because I like, at that point, then I felt like I was being a bad mom. Because I'm like, eh.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. So there's a book that I often recommend to parents. Should this show up again, right?
Mm-hmm.
It may not, but it probably will. If this is the kind of kid he is, where like discipline's not, punishment doesn't really do anything, and like reward stuff doesn't work very well. Sometimes, not always. I find there's a book called I think it's Positive Discipline. Jane Nelson is the author. It's based on Adlerian theory, which isn't always my favorite thing, but there's a piece in there that I love, and it's called The Mistaken Goals. And there's this idea that a child's misbehavior is often related to a goal that's based in a misunderstanding of the world around them. And it's sort of like, sometimes it's a power struggle, sometimes there's like 4 or 5 of them. But there's a chart in that book that talks about how you feel as a parent when your child misbehaves, then that helps you figure out what it is that they're trying to accomplish with the behavior. And sometimes that can be really insightful.
Oh, I bet, because it has a
'Cause
drastic
you
effect
react
on
to
me. Yes, I mean, it kills me when he's bad. Like,
It does. It ruins her.
Oh
and then
my
then
gosh.
that makes me angry.
Well, because then if
it's
like
a vicious cycle.
yeah, I mean, if I have to punish him, and it would, I mean, like, there was nights where like it would be something as mild as like, you're not getting a story with mommy tonight, and then I'd be in the bedroom like crying because I'm like, that's my time at night with him.
Yeah, when the punishment hurts you more than it hurts them, right?
Yeah.
Like that's always like, you're like, oh my God, how did we get here?
Right. I'm like, who's in trouble? Is it him or me?
Oh, you
Right?
took way more punishment during that period than he did.
I
Way
know.
more.
I really did. Because then I think it's like my fault in some way too that he was being bad, and then it's like punishing him makes me feel. It's just a big vicious circle. I'll look at that positive.
Hey, ask Rachel. I want to get to that anonymous one to her directly before we're too far out of time.
Yes.
I can't miss that. This is an anonymous question.
Me. My wife asked me how I'd feel if she started being a cam girl, cranking it to strangers. I said if that's what she really wanted to do, then I'd support her. That was the wrong answer, apparently, and enraged her. So if I'm over possessive, that's a problem, obviously. But if I'm under possessive, then that's no good either because she doesn't feel wanted enough? Question mark.
Do you get that? Does that make sense to you, Rachel?
Yeah, it does. And this is the dichotomy of people, right? Like we confuse ourselves in this, right? Like, because if I really wanted to do this thing, then I wanted you to be supportive. But what I was really asking was, would you be willing to share me in this way? And your answer was supposed to be no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's mind games, right? Kind of, like in a way.
Right.
Well, yes and no, but I think what it often is what I would call mixed messages, right? We're not very good as human beings about being direct and asking for what we need and really asking things. And I've been told this is actually more American society, but I can only speak to what I know. This unwillingness to be direct. So like if your wife really wanted to go do this, you could always, if she proposes this, you could say, is this something you want? Can you talk to me about what's going on and why? You know, I wouldn't really want to keep you from having a really satisfying sex life. If this is about money, let's talk about it differently. Like finding out what it is you really want, the truth that she really wants. The truth of the matter is she needed to be direct and give clear communication, which she didn't do.
Yeah.
Like she was looking for an answer. And so that wasn't really fair. But part of how you can get around that if you're the partner is that seemed to come out of left field. Can you talk to me about where that came from and how that came to be something you wanted to do? Get curious about why they're asking versus trying to give the right answer.
So can that work also in reverse though, Rachel? Like if the person asking the question, if he really wants to say no, like he's like, God, no. But he says, well, if it's what you want to do, then he's going to automatically be resentful, right? Because he wasn't honest in his answer.
Because he wasn't direct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can see how it could get murky real bad.
Yeah, it can get ugly really, really quickly. But we're taught so many things culturally, right? Like so men get this confusing thing around. So I'm supposed to support my partner, you know, particularly heterosexual men, right? I'm supposed to be supportive of my partner. I'm not supposed to be a sexist jackass. I understand that like the DV websites and the toxic relationship things tell me that being possessive is wrong and it's bad and it's a sign of an unhealthy relationship. So I'm trying not to do that. You're trying to sort of maneuver all of the messages you're given, but women are too.
I know it works for us. You're mine.
Yeah. But I want to give an example for listeners, right, of somebody that's horrible at this, and that would be me. I'm so bad about this, but the intention comes from a good place, I think. Like, I'll refuse. I don't want to be direct because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And so what that ends up doing all the time, Brooke, it drives her nuts, is it'll set a lot of false expectations with people. Because I'll always answer like, yes, okay, or maybe. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. Instead of, clearly I didn't want to and I should have just said no, but I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And then I'll overcommit or, and then she, of course, takes the ass into that when I'm miserable at home or something or pissed off at really myself because I wasn't honest about how I felt. So how is that something you can work on?
Practice. Here's the thing. No is a complete answer. And it's actually, I posted it on my story on Instagram today. There's some, maybe I'll pull them up. Maybe I'll repost them on my Facebook page. There's some conversations about boundaries and what those look like. And boundaries really are saying what you mean, because that's actually much kinder than
Sure.
Yeah, it is.
No, it makes total sense. People end up way more pissed when you either half-ass or stiff them at the last minute, which is something that I've had to do a bunch of times.
Or you get resentful because you didn't say no when that's what you meant.
Exactly.
And this is boundaries, people. And people struggle with these so hard because we're told, don't hurt anybody's feelings. Don't. But the thing is you're a lot less likely to hurt someone's feelings if you're honest and upfront. And it doesn't have to be in a nasty, unpleasant way. It can just be, look, it's the thing that happened with us, right? So we were supposed to do a show right around tax time. And I was like, I could do this show. And then I'd be super flustered and super frustrated and watching the time and not really present. And that's not helpful for anyone. Or I can be honest and be like, hey, guys, this is just not going to work for me. I feel bad. I'll jump back in when I can. I'm not going to be able to do tonight. What would have been smarter for me would have been pay attention to the calendar.
But I remember that, and it bothered neither one of us a bit because you were like, I can't. And we were like, great, cool. But
this is the thing, right? Like, I could have made that worse for all of us. Like, maybe I would have showed up on the show and not been my normal self and not been fully present. And then you guys have been like, well, what the hell's going on with Rachel? Why was she like off today? What does that accomplish for anyone? Where if you can just be direct, it doesn't mean people won't be hurt, but then they're hurt by truth and by your realness and they can recuperate from that rather than being misled or manipulated or lied to or, hurt by your best intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll find those boundaries once. Somebody posted them on Instagram. They were great.
Yeah.
Boundaries look like, yes, this is important to me because you are important to me. And I acknowledge that right now I just don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I love you. I would be there for you. And right now there isn't space for whatever it is. I don't answer emails on the weekends,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
boundaries in different places, but that's what it is. It's about setting boundaries for yourself. It's that internal and external where, Randall, you're really good. You have external boundaries where people can throw shit at you and it just bounces off. Like it's like a windshield.
Mm-hmm.
You just wipe it off with windshield wipers and you move on. It doesn't impact anything about how you view yourself.
Mm-hmm.
No,
What struggles a little more is the internal boundary, in the sense that you're so worried that your stuff might hurt other people that hold it all in.
Mm-hmm. Sure. 100%.
And it's supposed to be like a dotted line, right? It's not supposed to be a brick wall where you keep it all like, I can't, like, it's okay if people hurt me, but I can't hurt anybody else. Right?
That's exactly it. You nailed it. That's exactly it.
No, and Brooke's been, it's so funny because we're so different that way. We're polar opposites. She has no problem saying no. And it never sounds mean. I just feel like when I say it, people are like, damn, Randall just told me to go fuck myself.
Wait, it never sounds mean? I thought I was always mean.
No, like not when you say no. You can just say, like, if people request something of your time.
Yes.
You'll be
If
like,
I just
you know
don't
what,
have
that doesn't
time.
work for me.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it doesn't sound mean. It actually is.
And it's just
similar like when Rachel's like, I got to do taxes. And I was like, man, you know what? That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
But when I say it, I feel like what they're hearing is, hey, fuck you, motherfucker. This is ridiculous. You mean nothing to me.
And that's not what you're saying
Clearly,
at all.
I don't matter to you. Clearly, you don't care about me.
I know.
Because if you did, you'd do all these things. To me, what that says is somewhere along the lines.
I'm damaged, Rachel. I have trust issues.
No, I'm trying to figure out. There was a message you were given, and you and I haven't talked about it enough for me to have a clearer picture of this. But you were given a message about what it means to tell people no, and that sacrificing yourself was something you were supposed to do. You got that message from somewhere. You adopted it as a rule by which you live, but the problem is it's no longer helpful.
He knows.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He knows. Yes.
It's like you're a like when people have.
It's like you're a mind reader.
Yeah.
Rachel.
Or when people has a psychic, and they're like, "Fuck, what? Jesus." Yes.
No, you just articulated it.
With me?
No, I can. Yeah, poor Tom.
Yeah, Tom doesn't stand a chance. I love Tom, by the way. Tom has been on the show actually also twice.
He's awesome. Love Tom.
I love you guys.
Love some Tom.
No, you just articulated it absolutely perfect. And I just looked at Randall and I'm like, if we weren't on video, I would have mouthed something to you, but baby,
It's weird though because I feel weird about it. I'm a huge advocate of therapy. I tell everyone I know. I think it's great. I have a therapist here. I see her every 3 months. Whether shit's going wrong or not, she's my like check-in. I don't know. I love it. I think everyone should have somebody that they talk to, right? Like that's just my opinion. So I'm not shy about it, but it's still hard for me to think that there's still part of me that thinks it's bullshit that we carry shit from our childhood. Because I'm 40 years old, like I'm like, hey, really? Am I still carrying some shit from when I was 5, 6, or 7 for real?
Yes.
Sometimes I'm like, this whole thing's a load of shit.
And that's why I'm so paranoid about everything with Gunner, because I'm scared I'm going to fuck it up. And then he's going to be somewhere when he's 40 talking about how his mom screwed him up.
But you will be, because we all screw up our kids in our own ways. But here's
the
thing. It's not usually intentional. But B, also, Randall, here's what I'll tell you. I don't know that it's that we carry shit, right? I think we as children create rules for ourselves so that we can function in the families we grow up in. Lots of those rules are not explicitly stated. Not like some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. And some of them is how we as kids make sense of the world around us without all the pertinent information.
Yeah.
And so we don't even know to check those rules until we sit in therapy and somebody's like, I'm intrigued as to why you think that.
Yeah.
And then you can follow it back and go, well, when I was a kid, I remember so-and-so saying this and this. So what I told myself was XYZ.
Yeah, it's your interpretation of how you took other people's behaviors and stuff. Yeah.
And you may have been misreading people's body language.
Mm-hmm.
You as a child don't have full context for the adults in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's just, we do, as children, our brain just fills in the information we're not given.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even mean that that's the message anyone was trying to give you.
Yep.
So I wouldn't say you're carrying it. I think it's just how you made sense of the world until someone looked at you and goes, I don't know that that's helpful for you anymore. You can do it differently if you want to.
And he is a very sensitive, like he's.
Well, of course. We all know that. Everyone knows that. That's where the Uncle Randy's a little different. Uncle Randy's a hard ass. He has no emotions. Well, he does because he cares about the young. He cares about the young folks.
Cares about the youngsters. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do want to add there was a caveat to that question, and it was for Brooke.
Mm-hmm.
It said follow-up question. Brooke, how would you feel if Randall became a non-nude cam boy?
That's a no. No. Do you know what the
question?
Real question.
That was a question? Yeah, because I mean, do you know what a
same
cam?
person that asked you that question, Rachel, followed up with that for Brooke.
You know what a cam boy is, right?
I don't really know what they are. I picture that they're just
This
sitting
is from,
here nude or something.
Not necessarily. So non-nude really doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's a fuck no from me, because this is from Reddit, so I know it's real. Okay. For those of you that don't know, cam boy / girl is someone who performs sexual acts for money via a camera on their laptop. So no.
How is that non?
How can you not be nude?
You could be doing sex things to other people or something, like not, but no, just no.
You could give a blowjob to a dildo, I suppose.
Yeah,
I guess that's or a pocket pussy.
Yeah, no, we'll find other ways to make money. So no.
That's so funny. Could you picture Uncle Randy as a cam boy, though? I bet there is like a small section of women, though, that'd be like, ooh. Uncle
and not just
Randy.
women.
Say God.
I'm sure not.
I mean, there's, I know a couple of gay guys. One of my friends from back in the day, I don't even know if he still listens to the podcast, but I think it was before we had the podcast. He used to always send messages. Yes, he would send messages because he loves a big bearded dude, and like would be like, "Oh, your husband's so fine." I'm like, "I know, chill out, dude."
He's the one that told me I would. He's the one that told me I would be a bear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In the gay community, I'd be considered the bear, which is.
We had some of that conversation. I remember that.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm cool with that. That's
but you're not going to be a cam boy.
Of course not.
That's ridiculous. So whoever asked that, the answer is no.
I think that was just the reason. They just wanted to hear you. You say that.
Wanted to hear that.
You wanted to hear me tell.
Lifetime.
Yeah, it's not happening. Yeah, I just realized I don't think we've talked to Rachel since we moved to our new house.
No, I saw pictures, but I haven't talked to you guys since you moved. It's everything good in the new neighborhood?
It's wonderful.
Oh,
wonderful. We love it.
Totally different world. We had such an older, house. I love that old house. I still haven't. See, here's where I'm damaged, Rachel. Right?
I haven't driven past it either.
I don't know if you saw the pictures. Like when we moved out, everyone left, and I sat in there. I was the last man out.
I cried all weekend. I was a basket case.
If you let me finish, I'm not saying that. I know it affected you, but like I needed to sit in it by myself. Yeah. So when you left, I was like, all right, I'm gonna stay, see the movers and everything, because all the memories in that house and everything. Yeah. And I still haven't been able to drive by it, Rachel. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to.
You might not. It doesn't mean anything. It's just at some point you may be able to drive past it and do it fondly, but right now you're still grieving the loss of that, and it doesn't mean you have to. How you do that is your own deal, right? Like, I mean, we spent the first 5 years Tom was here in a house, and then we moved into the house we're in now. I think maybe once or twice we've driven by the house. We have tons of great memories, but it's also a house.
Right.
Right. And other people live there. Things change about it. But I was that torn up when my grandparents moved out of the house that they had most of while I was growing up. Like, I mean, I was crushed when they re-sided it and it went from yellow to blue. I was like, who does that to me? Like, no, grandma. Like, I even painted a picture because when I was little, I mixed up yellow and green, and so I called my grandma the green grandma. She lived in the yellow house. I know. So they had to have the house painted. Like they had to have a picture of the house painted that I think my grandparents still have of the yellow house because like that mattered to me. Like, I don't know that I've ever driven past my grandparents' house since they moved.
Yeah,
Like,
I haven't driven past it. It was
tough.
it was bittersweet. I mean, it was definitely like I love this house so much, and it is. It's just a house, but there was just I lived in that house for 13 years, like, and it was.
Had your baby in the house.
I had my
The boys
baby in
got
the,
there.
he took his first steps in that hallway in that house, and like Randall and I started our relationship there, and it was the last place my first child, my dog Breeze lived, and like so just so many things, but.
People pretend though that like the only thing we're supposed to grieve are like death losses. But the truth is we experience all kinds of non-death losses that we don't always give enough space to an acknowledgement of. Like
Oh, I didn't understand why I was such a basket case for all weekend. And it was like Randall was it was like leading up to it, Randall was the one that was like not like a basket case like I was in the same sense, but like he was the one very like
A lot of anxiety.
But like when it came to the day of us moving out and then the consecutive days, I was the one, like it was so much, it just all came out. And like we had like 2 days where like we moved everything out, but then we had another day or two to go get like the last few things and like clean things up. So it was almost like just like slow rip of the Band-Aid where like I had to keep going back and like it was just every
empty.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like your space anymore, but it's your house.
Yeah, it was, and that was just it would just rip my heart out every time. And my sister went with me the very last time to go get like a few things that I had like piled up in the boys' rooms that like couldn't fit on the moving truck, and like we just had to throw them in my car. And it was like we pulled up, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so crazy, everything," and like it's just immediately like, "Ah." And then but we walked in, and then I'm like, okay. This house smells old because it is old. I mean, it's an old house. And I mean, but it smelled like my house that I lived in forever. But I was like, okay.
So different than here.
So different. And you walked in this house and it smells new. And I was like, okay.
I mean,
this makes it easier.
Yeah, it was all the reasons were right. It was a huge upgrade, all that yada, yada, yada. But it opened my eyes, and I've told people I never really appreciated until we left that small old house of how much I think people put too much value on how big or how new their house is.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that old house, what doesn't look like much to a lot of people.
It was full of.
But that house was a magical place to me.
Yep.
You know, and so it makes a lot, because this house is way bigger, double the space. If I'm comparing them side by side, they're both great houses. I'm not gonna. The other one's no less of a.
Oh, and Gunnar still will say stuff about like his old room and the old house. Like he didn't see it as a small house either necessarily. Like that was his only home until we came here, and it affected him too. He was the day leading up to like packing and all that and moving, he was not right. Like that day we moved, he was like saying his stomach hurt and all this stuff, and like not outright saying it was anything to do with it, but I knew it was like all, and he could probably sense all my anxiety too.
Both of us.
Yeah, I was trying not to be like a complete like ball of tears in front of him, but like
change is hard.
Yeah.
And loss is sad. And we pretend like it's neither of those things. Like you're supposed to muscle through it. You're supposed to like, this is big and exciting. You're not supposed to be sad.
That
right?
was like, I was like, I'm supposed to be excited and happy. And
no, look, we've only been in this house 4 years, and we'll be moving in the fall. McLaren's moving out. And it's not that I'm so attached to the house, but at the same time, there will be something sad about leaving here, because we're leaving more of a lifestyle. Like we live in the suburbs, we're out, and Tom and I are moving to the city.
Oh,
and
very
McLaren,
cool.
My brother's being deployed in September, and McLaren's going to live in his house while he's gone. So she'll be staying in the area, but yeah, we'll be downtown Chicago
with all your animals.
One of them's going with her, but yes, the rest are going with us.
Rachel.
Rascals.
I know.
What?
Right. it's going to be an interesting transition.
Oh my.
I mean, for me, it's also like the empty nester thing and
Yes.
but even just leaving the area is sad, right?
Oh gosh, that was a big part of Randall's anxiety too.
Well, it was my day to day, like my routine, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm such a creature of habit. Like
Right.
I have my footprint. I could hit every store. I knew if I needed to hit this store on the way to there, I could also stop and get my this here. And we come here, my universe has changed. And
Right.
That was what took some time to get used
well,
to.
still
a
working on
lot.
it. I
Yeah.
still don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think whenever there's any sort of big shift, it takes time, and you need to give yourself a chance to grieve, and you need to give yourself a chance to be sad about it, and really sit with yourself and be, acknowledge the things that are great, but also acknowledge what you miss. Like give it I mean, for the first time, we have really great neighbors. They've been amazing to us. We will miss them terribly. And we're going to pick up and go where, like, I know people, but I don't know anybody who's living where we're planning to go, not specifically, because I just want to be able to walk to work for a while. I'm tired of my commute. So,
Well, that's going to be nice.
Right. I'm so excited about that. We do this thing about, like, how do you hold both and, right? Like, it is super exciting. And it is it's a really big deal for you guys to move into a bigger place and to have all this extra space for the kids and to, live in a new neighborhood. It's super exciting. And leaving behind what you left behind is still really sad. But people think you can only sort of have one emotion at a time. It's like both can be true. You just have to figure out how to hold both of them and kind of juggle them a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what I actually felt good about. I was going to kind of touch on that, but didn't know how to say it, so now I do. Is I thought we've handled it really good, because we've handled both sides of it. That no one. I feel better doing that, to where we both knew each other were sad, than for us to be pretending like we weren't sad, and then there'd be like fake fights that are really you take that kind of shit out on each other as a couple,
right.
And a lot of couples do that, and the fact that we're able to see it, I think it's just a win. I mean, everybody has wins and losses, but I think that's a win.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can't hold anything in ever, so.
Yeah, that's more me. I'm more talking to me. I'm definitely the one to hold it.
And I don't really let you hold anything in.
No,
I just
that's what I was going to ask you for our last question, Rachel, and this is from Randall here. He's a listener. Okay. But like with our boys, I'm trying to teach, right? Like as a parent, you juggle, the do as I say, not as I do, right? Like I don't want my boys to be so anti-change like I am. Like change is very hard for me. I'm not a fan of it. I know everyone around me that knows me knows how much I hate it.
We all kind of
try to accommodate it, and I have to like fight and tell them, hey guys, it's okay that I don't pick the restaurant. Like you guys pick it. Like it's okay. And it's just because they're being sweet. They're just trying to be nice. But I don't want my boys to pick up on that or try to help them be the people that like embrace change. Because Brooke is very much that way, which helps me because at least my partner is the opposite, so they see both. But I was wanting to get your thoughts if there's anything I can do to help me with that.
You can be no. Here's the thing. I think the best thing you can do for the boys is to acknowledge to them that this is something you struggle with. Like be real with them about change has always been hard for me. I work really hard to sort of practice going with the flow. Brooke's really helpful in helping me navigate some of that. I hope for you guys that you can find change to be exciting, right? Like just be honest with them about the struggle. They might too. I struggle a lot less with change, but McLaren can't stand it. Like she hates change. Like, oh God. Like I've felt most of her life like I've spent it pushing her off the cliff of her comfort zone every minute of every day. I mean, and then trying to balance that with like understanding that she's comforted by routine. She likes
Randall.
what she does. And she thinks that way. So like trying to give her that. And we've spent lots of her life working around her anxieties and her dislike of change and pushing her out of it, right? Like we sort of do both but I think the more honest you can be with the boys, the more they can understand that people are different and that nothing is locked in. Like you say, this is hard for me. I know it's hard for me. I also know it's good for me to do it anyway. And so I'm going to push through. Or I'm going to take a little longer to do this because I know I need more time and space. But just be as honest with them about your struggles as you can, because then they know it's okay to struggle.
Yeah.
Because if they're kids who don't like change, they may always be that way.
Sure. Yeah.
But how do you share with them how you cope with it? And how do you share with them about knowing when to get yourself to do it, even if it's uncomfortable?
Well, and that's the big thing, you know. I don't want them to miss, because mine, it really set in on me when I was older. Like, it's gotten worse, you know. Like, it's not. I don't want it to like settle in on them even younger than it was for me, because if I was like I am now when I was younger, geez, I would have missed out on everything. You know, like I don't want them to miss things. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if it's just getting older, or, you know, maybe some of it was how the, you know, upheaval of, you know, a bad divorce, and then having such a good, stable relationship that me and Brooke have now. You know, I think part of it sometimes I can trace all the way back to, like, I don't want to lose that. Like that, you know, now I've got this solid rock and
safe.
Nothing's going to mess it up.
Life feels safe this way.
Sure.
If your brain's whole job is to keep you safe. So it's working all the time to keep you safe. And if that feels safe, then it wants you to do more of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's where I think a piece of it definitely is, for sure.
But knowing that allows you to sort of look at it and make decisions around that and figure out how to best cope with it, where it's helpful and where it's not. And as far as the boys go, giving them opportunities, but also giving them opportunities to say no, and letting them practice figuring out when it's good for them to push themselves a little bit out, and when it's smart for them to listen to their gut and stay back. Like, you can just practice with them that way and let them. I think the best thing we can do for kids is sort of help them understand that even grown-ups, like, we don't have it all together either, and we don't always get it, and we have a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, I wish that, looking back on how we're talking about, you start to see your parents as people.
Yeah.
When that kind of hits you, you know, like, I don't know how much of that maybe comes from, you know, my parents maybe just trying to keep it together because of all the, you know, different things from when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And if that's, you know, just kind of created where I'm trying to be so far outside of that and being proactive about things. But, you know, the last thing any parent wants to do is drop some baggage on their kids, you know.
But here's the thing about it. You can't avoid it. There's no way that your kids are coming out of childhood unscathed.
Why
That's a
not?
good point. Yeah, that's a good point. It's impossible, right?
Right, because they aren't you.
No.
They're figuring out their stuff. They have their own path. But, you know, being open with your kids, age appropriately honest with your kids, developing a relationship with them that allows them to come to you, to talk to you, and for you to still have influence. Right? Like, that's all you can do. And be there to answer the questions and recognize that you're not perfect and you never could be.
Yeah. That's great advice. I think I can cancel my therapy session coming up this time. Tell Dr. Holland she can have a break.
Yeah.
She's the best, though. You would actually love her. I think you guys would get along famously. She's top notch. She's a lot very similar to you. And I know that you talked about how therapists are so different, right? They're all different people, but she's a lot in your vein of, you know, she's pretty straightforward. You know, I'm an older guy, so I know that it's easier for her to just kind of give it to me straight.
Speak truth to bullshit. Like, look at people and go, did you really just say that? Hear yourself just now? How's that working for you?
What's funny, though, Rachel, this really is going to be my last thing, and we'll run because we've got to run. I know you've got to run, but it's so weird, and I know a lot of people that fight seeing a therapist that I hope I could reach, and if they listen to our show, maybe they would be a little more open to it, is sure, 95% of what my therapist says to me, Brooke has said to me. The exact same thing. 90, maybe 98% of it. Like, I've heard it, but it's just different. You know, hearing it from Dr. Holland than it is my wife, which is strange to say, and I'm not knocking Brooke
that's fine.
by saying that, but it's, you know, sometimes it's not rocket science.
As long as it sinks in somehow, I'm fine
well,
with
I
it.
had this conversation with a potential client who was like, I've always been curious about this therapy thing, right? Like, I feel like I've had a pretty good life. I'm functioning pretty well. Like, but there seem to be these patterns that show up. And people look at me and go, are we doing this again? And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should talk to someone about that. And here's what I told her. I said, look, the reason therapy is helpful is because I don't live in your story.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say something or ask a question that reminds you of something that somebody else in your story has said, it gives more validity to the thing that person said. Because I'm not in the middle of it.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't have to live with the consequences of it. I don't have to, you know, but if I'm asking a similar question to what Brooke's asking, or I say something just offhandedly that sounds similar to something that, you know, your sister said, or then all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe there's something to that I should think about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or what I've had people say to me, interestingly enough, is they're like, yeah, that, the way you said it, that's what I meant, but I didn't know how to say it. And so I had a client say to me like, Rachel, you have the best words. Like, brings a notebook into session to write them down. I'm like, I don't know if I can go that far, but for some reason, sometimes somebody outside of your circle can say things in a way that land differently.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I think is so critical, and why I hope people will. And it's gotten better. I've got so many friends that people would, you know, ignorantly be like, "There's no way that guy doesn't go to therapy." You know, he's a tough guy. Whatever, all the fake, you know, wrong things. Because I don't think anyone's too tough or too awesome for therapy. I think it's a great tool for everybody to have.
Find one that fits for you.
Yeah.
Like, the first one doesn't work, go find another one. There's always a fit for somebody. You just got to find it.
Yep. Well, all right, Rachel. Well, I'm going to wrap that one up. I know we've held you a long time on this one. It's so good to just to see you and talk to you.
Yeah, I haven't talked to you guys in forever, so this was good. It was fun.
I know. This feels right.
It does. It just feels so natural.
We can probably get back into the once a month thing if that sounds
Yeah,
like
absolutely. I think people will want that, and we'll be able to put out you know, the feelers for what we want to do, like a topic to line up questions, and we can kind of maybe line that up with, if I get similar questions for old Uncle Randy, and we can all sync it up together. But we'll put everything out on all the socials, and the recorded audio of this will go out. I don't know. Brooke will get it all done in a week or so, within a week probably.
Yeah, we got to do podcast the roundtable too. Release that first, probably.
Yeah, we'll get that knocked out and this uploaded. But
sounds good.
Anything? How can they reach you, new folks?
Rachel? Okay. So Twitter handle is Miller Rachel D. Instagram is Rachel D Miller. Facebook is Rachel D Miller AMFT.
All right, Rachel. Well, we love you. We'll talk to you later. And
sounds good. Good to see you.
Everybody else, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.